Well, welcome back to Jay and Dave's Sports Bar. We've talked a lot about football, and we will continue to do so today, but definitely a shifting of the seasons to basketball season. And I tell you, the Boise State men's basketball team definitely deserves some credit. They've won 6 out of their last 7, and now we are staring right in the face of one of the biggest games in ExtraMile Arena history, Dave.
Yeah, definitely the biggest in ExtraMile Arena history. Maybe Taco Bell Arena. And maybe BSU Pavilion. I mean, if you really think about it in terms of the opportunity here, they have obviously they played a higher ranked team. They played Cincinnati back in '99, non-conference game. This being a conference game, playing an undefeated team in mid-February, a team that you have a really good rivalry against, a team that you've played close games against, a team that Boise State has actually won in VAS. That they have crushed Boise State's heart.
Yeah,
here on this home floor. So this is really as big as it will and has been for Boise State basketball. Honestly, maybe forever.
I hope that people that listen to our podcast won't hate me for this next comment. If you do, direct your email to dsouthern@theathletic.com. Is that your email there?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, just direct it there.
And it's Southern with an O.
Yeah, Southern with an O. When you think about this matchup, and it's almost kind of like the shoe is on the other foot when you look at football. Boise State usually has a little bit of the upper hand, but every now and then San Diego State gives the Broncos a run for their money and definitely has the ability to knock them off whenever they play.
Yes.
And that's almost, again, the shoe's kind of on the other foot where San Diego State's basketball team is in the driver's seat, but Boise State has beaten them, and it's always a game, and they're perfectly capable of knocking them off at any given year. Even if they so happen to be 25-0 and the lone undefeated team remaining in the entire country.
It's amazing that anybody does that. I mean, honestly, Kentucky a couple years ago did that going into the tournament, didn't win. Last team to do it was Indiana, 1980.
It's been a while.
I think they were the last one to go wire to wire. But with San Diego State being able to do that, I think a lot of people thought they were going to be good this year.
Yeah.
But going into
nobody predicted 25-0.
Going into the season,
especially
was Utah State the team that more people thought was going to be better?
Absolutely.
And so
they were picked to win it, weren't they?
Yeah.
And on top of that, San Diego State, they played some decent teams in their non-conference schedule. I mean, it's not like they just scheduled a bunch of cupcakes and then have ran the Mountain West table.
Right.
They've had a decent schedule.
And we've seen, again, but what you're alluding to a little bit with this is we've seen in college basketball, literally from the first day. It's hard as hell to win away from home.
It is.
And nobody is great.
That basically sums up college basketball in 2020.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, Chris Venini from The Athletic kind of compared it this way, and it made a lot of sense. The 2007 football season, remember, it was just chaotic. That's what this is for basketball. So with all that, and considering the history of these two schools, you would think, San Diego State coming in here, absolute juggernaut, which, in a way they are. But it's not a homer thing to say it, that Boise State has a really good shot.
Yeah. If
this game was played 3 weeks ago, I would be like, ugh, they're going to get rolled. But the way that they've been playing recently, even that close game in Utah State that they didn't win, you're just like, they're actually kind of putting these things together like you thought maybe they would.
And that's what, even after that Utah State game last week, Boise State lost. But they were down a starter. They were on a road. Utah State has been incredibly tough at home this season, 12-1 going into that game, I think, which just so happens to be Boise State's home record.
San Diego State was the only one that beat them there, right?
Yeah, correct. They had excuses not to make that game close, and they just found a way to compete, and they almost had it at the end. They just couldn't quite get over the top. Maybe we'll get into that game and the foul discrepancy a little bit here, but just focusing on this specific matchup for a second, and that is – Dave, you mentioned, just to reiterate, Cincinnati came here in 1999. That's the highest ranked team to ever play in the Pavilion / Taco Bell Arena / ExtraMile Arena, which we will just refer to as ExtraMile Arena moving forward. San Diego State in 2014 was ranked 5th in the country when they played Boise State here. That was a very good game. The Broncos almost upset them. They actually led by 1 with 4 seconds to go when Dwayne Poley, yes, knocked down a 3, and that was the difference maker. San Diego State got out of there with a 67-65 victory.
How about that?
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Twice in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
If we include this year, it's really twice in 4 years. They lost at home to a top 10 team on a final second three-pointer by a player that was shooting 30% or less from 3.
Yeah.
Or less than 30%. Poley was like 25%, and then Martin, when he hit his, was like 12 or whatever.
That's a good point.
I wasn't at that game last year.
Oh, man, who's shooting 25% from 3 for San Diego State?
But when I saw that, I was like, God, that reminds me of a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember also that game.
Like you got the shot. You forced the shot that you wanted to force.
The guy that you want to be taking it is what you
just
wanted.
went in.
And that game that when San Diego State was ranked 5th, it was, again, similar situation. It was an afternoon game, and they got a lot of people there. Actually, here, I have it. I have the attendance for that one.
It was over 11,000, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, okay. Actually,
9,602.
9,602. So 12 times during the Rice era have they cracked the 10,000 fan mark. The last time they cracked 11, I got my numbers confused here for a second. The last time they cracked 11 was in 2015, and that was actually when Boise State hosted Fresno State and the Broncos clinched their first ever Mountain West regular season basketball title. So it's been a little while since they've really tried since they've almost filled that thing to the brim. You have to go back in terms of 10,000 fans. They did it when Chandler Hutchison was here. They did it 4 times his senior year. You're watching a team that was fighting for an NCAA tournament bid, that had a NBA first-round talent on it, so there was plenty of reasons to go out. But since then, they have not cracked 10K, something I do expect them to get to coming up on Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why not.
Yeah, last we heard, following the Air Force game, which you attended, by the way,
I was there.
Was 9,000 tickets were out. Yep. I would assume that after that performance, especially Boise State able to pull away down the stretch, that a few more tickets were likely sold since then. Dave, you brought up the fact that it's not like we're being homers when we say Boise State's got a shot in this thing. I really think they do, and a big reason why is they got Abu Kigab back last game. He logged some solid minutes, not nearly what he normally contributes to the team, but it was good to see him get out there and contribute in any way, shape, or form. And so now you have a team that is healthy. Derek Alston is finally broken out of his shooting slump, and I say finally, I mean, the guy was in a slump for 2.5 games. Yeah. I don't even know if that constitutes a slump or not. But when you score as efficiently as he does, it looks odd, so we call it a slump. Correct. So I think that this team's in a great position to really make a run at this thing on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, 100%. And with Abu, Leon mentioned after the Air Force game that he hadn't been practicing at all in 10-ish days, and they put him out there, and he said he looked a little rusty, and they kind of ran him a little with the needle, kind of threatening to be on empty a little bit, just because they wanted to get him back into it a little bit. And I think he was like 2 of 10 from the field. That they had actually been shooting close to 50% without him.
One thing that I appreciate, though, wink, wink. One thing that I appreciate is some of the transparency when it comes to Abu's injury. And we were told that he's been dealing with a hip pointer, and it's been tough on him, and he has missed a bunch of practice. That way, we know why he's not playing. And when he gets back on the floor, we know why he's not in the starting lineup and might be limited. It's not a performance issue at all. Right. It's not a discipline issue. I'm not going to lie. When what was it? It was 2 weeks ago when Boise State was at home and Abu was first dealing with that. It was the game after San Jose State, because he suffered it right at the end of the San Jose State game, and Abu didn't come out in the second half. And people were kind of like, what's up with Abu? And so I went over and said that he's dealing with something right now in the locker room, trying to get that injury worked on. He's going to try to come back, but immediately some people are messaging you on Twitter, oh man, this must be a discipline issue or something like that. But Leon was transparent with us, and we know exactly what it is. He's working through it. Probably going to have some patience with him, but it certainly helps us paint the picture. That's for sure.
It's not season ending, Jay.
It's not season. It's not season ending, Dave.
Imagine
that, and like the whole world didn't come to an end.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We were told.
The fans were like, now we're not going to go to the games anymore.
Yeah, we're not going to go to
follow
the games.
the team.
And Boise State all of a sudden loses all their competitive advantage over every other team just because we know that Abu Kijab's dealing with the hit pointer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for sounding bitter.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
There are grievances we're allowed to air. And that's been one of mine too.
Yeah.
The interesting thing too about like a San Diego State is like Boise State that right now you talk about having Abu and the depth that is kind of there now where they actually have some. Mm-hmm. There was times in the past where it was like they were maybe 6 or 7 at best deep.
This seems different.
Now they're at least 8.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, I would even say like 6.5 because every now and then like you might get something out of 7.
Right.
But definitely now. And there might be a chance where if you need like a Riley Abercrombie to play a few minutes for you, he can give you something, Max Rice in Wyoming. I mean, he was a huge reason why they even won that game. Had 12 first half points, 4 first half threes. If they don't get that offensive production out of him,
they're going from behind.
Exactly. I don't know if they win that game.
Right.
Marcus Dickinson is settling in. He's been kind of swinging back and forth between the starting lineup and coming off the bench. And this is a team that is definitely deeper. You can rely on some more bodies. Robin George, at the very least, man, he's a big dude that can go out there and give you 5 fouls and rebound a little bit. I mean, I think he provides a little bit more than that, but you need somebody like that, and he provides that. So this team is going to be really intriguing over the next 3 weeks because – I know that they've struggled down at the Mountain West Conference tournament, or they've never just had that magical run down there where they've never made the final, where they've blown away expectations and made the final. If you climb to the 2 seed, which they are in position to do right now, and a win over San Diego State would be huge because all of a sudden you gain that second tier tiebreaker over teams like Utah State and stuff like that.
It's always like how they did against the teams above you.
Above you, yeah. So that's why this one's big. It's even though Utah State and Boise State split the season series, the Broncos jump back in front of them by beating San Diego State because they've beaten the first place team in the conference. So if you can get into that 2 seed, if you can avoid playing San Diego State until the finals, there's nobody in the conference that I look around and think Boise State can't beat. I mean, even San Diego State. I mean, the Aztecs will be favored whether they're away, home, or on a neutral floor against Boise State.
Yeah.
Outside of them, though, the Broncos got a shot against any team in this league.
Yeah, and it's funny too with San Diego State. I think it's absolutely a compliment to Dutcher and the way that you lose to Steve Fisher, and it's like, well, I don't, for a little bit there, you're like, ooh.
Oh, absolutely.
And then now you look what they're doing, and the way he's coached them to be kind of just a really good team. They you look at even like Nevada last year. Nevada was so deep with just dudes, right? And they were obviously a very good team, but the way San Diego State has constructed it, it's just like. You mentioned, like, there might not be a guy that you're going to be like, yeah, I want him to shoot because all 5 of them can do it. You might not have one guy who's the best. You just got a bunch of really good ones.
One thing
they probably had MVP candidate, but still.
I hear you, man. Like, Malachi Flynn's been outstanding.
Flynn's been great.
But when there were some years there where we go down to the Mountain West Conference tournament and San Diego State. I mean, I think they ended up going to the Sweet 16 that year, but they were like 17-11, which is pretty average. That's not. I mean, that's not average for them. That's below average for them. But it's kind of a blah season.
Right.
It's Boise State winning 8 or 9 games on the football field, and you see those dudes get off the bus, and you'd be like, "Holy crap!" Like these guys. These guys are long, athletic.
That was
but sometimes they didn't really have that sense of like team.
Right.
That's what almost scares me more about this Aztec squad now is like they might not look like the old ones did at times, but man, they got something special in terms of their team chemistry and what's going on over there right now. And so, I don't know. I think that I'd probably have to chat with some of the people that cover San Diego State a little bit more about this and what they feel. But I would predict that they've had more talented rosters in the past.
I think so.
But but the teams might not be better.
I think that's a hell of a credit to Jim Dutcher's boy, Brian Dutcher, Minnesota guy.
You're going to bring up local ties. Malachi Flynn went to Washington State, so they have a Coug leading them to
very true.
Perfect record.
The But yeah,
jerk.
I think it's a really interesting game because I think Boise State has a shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the fact that, and I know, you know, this week when, like I said, in The Athletic, when they were like, hey, here's the top games to watch, and that was one of them. And it said, if San Diego State is going to lose a game, it's going to be this one.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the reasons we mentioned. Boise State is a team that right now is, you know, the 2 seed, 3 seed, whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard to win away from home. And they always play well against San Diego State.
Mm-hmm.
They usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, you know, all those factors make this one really, really worth coming out for. I mean, there was, 5,000 people on Tuesday. I get it. You're playing Air Force, but damn, Sunday's as good as it's going to get around here.
Well, on top of that, I mean, maybe it's way too cliche to say there's going to be a hangover effect, but San Diego State has already clinched the Mountain Division, or the Mountain West Conference division. It's not football. The Mountain West Conference, right? They've already locked it up. So if there's ever going to be a letdown for them, it might be this game. And on top of that, I feel like you go over there to the Boise State basketball facility, and there's kind of this energy right now where they know this is their shot. Like, this is their game. And I know that immediately if Boise State were to win, you know what the first question is going to start, the buzz around town is going to be is, well, can they get into the NCAA tournament without winning the Mountain West Championship? I still doubt that.
Probably not unless they run it.
I mean, if they run the tournament, then they get the automatic bid. But I still don't. That still means
unless they run it all the way to the championship games, hypothetically they lose. Then
it still means that this would be a 10-loss team. There are 9 losses now. Best case scenario, and given that case, situation, they'd be a 10-loss team. And I just don't see a 10-loss team getting an at-large bid out of the Mountain West. I just don't. I mean, I think Utah State, who seemed like a lock to make the NCAA tournament, they probably are in the same situation as Boise State, where they have to go run the table at the Mountain West Conference tournament in order to get in. So it's actually kind of interesting. I mean, seeding is going to be huge over these next couple of weeks, but if it gets to a point where seeding doesn't matter, heck, rest a guy for the last week or two and make sure he's good to go down in Las Vegas because that becomes your season.
If they win, that's 18, and that's a rollover for Leon, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I remember when they won an 18th game when they won down at Viejas, when they broke that weird streak that I don't know how Mike May, their SID, ever figured it out. When they had that streak of when they were leading with 5 minutes left.
5 minutes to go, yep.
And they ended that streak and beat them on the road, and that was his 18th win.
A lot roped into that one.
Yeah, a lot roped into that one. That was a very fun evening for that staff. Ask me about it sometime. But I think that it's like I said, it's as good as it's going to get around here in terms of that sort of opportunity, that sort of atmosphere and stuff like that. It's as good as it's going to get for Boise State basketball. That they have this opportunity, and like you mentioned it, when I was down there today, we were both down there today, talking to guys. Again, what I appreciate about covering basketball, like, I love football. That's my job.
Yeah. That's
my favorite sport. But I've always enjoyed covering basketball just because, especially around here, it's a little different.
Your job's to make us laugh, funny man, okay? All right?
Go chuckle.
Yeah.
But their thing is they know where they're at. And also, you get to know the people better because there's not 105 guys on the roster. That's another part I enjoyed about that. You get to deal with those guys a lot more, and you get to see them practice a little bit. You know what I mean? There's not
Dave, it's a more relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's not as separated. But what I was going to say is that when I was talking to guys today, they weren't afraid to be like, if we win, it's the biggest win in school history. They know it. They're not going to be like, who do we even play? You know, they're not going to do any of that crap. They know exactly what's at stake, and I appreciate them.
And it would be, by the way, if you want to go off rankings,
it would be.
This would be the biggest win in school history. They've never beaten a top 5 team.
What's the highest ranked win they have?
I can't remember, but I don't.
I might have that on here.
It's one of those records where when we say, they've never beaten a top 5 team in the country. Well, that's because top 5 teams are super good. Like, you're not necessarily supposed to be able to just have great records against top 5 teams.
I knew the answer.
What is it?
Creighton.
Oh,
the Derek Marks game.
11?
11.
Yeah,
they were 11.
Yep, and that was on the road. Yeah, I remember where I was that night. I was at I was shooting a Steelheads hockey game, and I felt like people there were just as excited about what was going on the ice as they were about Derek Marks going off against Creighton, and at that given time, the biggest win in school history in terms of ranking. So that's what's at stake for this Boise State basketball team. If they win, it would be historic. And I'm not saying that we're not in the business of trying to hype up Boise State games and promoting fans to go and cheer them on or anything like that. But like, if you are a sports fan, this is what you have the opportunity to go see on Sunday. The only undefeated team in the country in San Diego State. You have Boise State chasing their biggest win in school history in terms of rankings. You have tons of NBA talent on the floor. I mean, we got an email. I think I can share this, but we got an email a week and a half ago saying that as media, we had to let Boise State, confirm that we're going to the game.
Yes.
Because they need to make extra room for all the NBA scouts and stuff that are going to be there.
About a dozen.
I mean, that is unique.
Yeah.
I mean, even Chandler Hutchison was here. I don't remember. Maybe it happened. I just don't remember getting an email 2 weeks in advance of a game saying, let us know you're coming because we need extra room for scouts. I know a ton of scouts came and watched Chandler.
Yes.
I do remember at times like
there'd be like half a dozen or whatever.
The press row would be packed. There was some overflow seating. But to get that email, maybe Mike Walsh is just super good at his job and thinking ahead of things, and that wouldn't surprise me at all either, just getting prepared. But I don't think we've ever gotten an email saying that.
Yeah. Be prepared.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, and I remember talking to him on Monday, just making sure. I was like, hey, I'll be there Sunday. I don't need like this. I'm not doing like real time updates, but I was like, if I could sit somewhere, that would be fine. And he's like, okay. He's thinking about how they have like a dozen NBA scouts coming, and I think that's great. And it's as we said, the second highest team coming. The only higher one was Cincinnati, who was 3.
I mean, another thing too is like when we talk about NBA talent. Boise might only have a couple more shots to see Derek Alston. I mean, I still think he's got a good shot to come back next year, but he's also put himself in one heck of a position. So it can't be assumed for sure that you get a chance to watch him all next year.
I just think about there has been times in the past. I know that there are plenty of critics of Rice, and I think some of the criticism is worthy. The not making the Mountain West Championship being probably the primary one. But there's been times where they've had these big games that in this situation where someone has stepped up and done awesome. I remember when they played Colorado State, they had a game like that, and Derek Marks went ape, right? And so it's like there is an opportunity for
38 points, 33 in the second half.
Yeah, back when they had all that height.
Yeah,
they had like Iverson and those guys. But I just think that there's really good opportunity, whether it's Alston or whoever, just for someone to step up.
Justinian Jessup. I mean,
who knows?
Talk about a guy that has been about as consistent as it gets. R.J. Williams. I mean, there's been 15 players in program history. Well, 15 players in the program since the 87 season, I want to say.
They started really.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that have had 8 or more double-doubles in a single season, and R.J. Williams is one of those 15.
Right.
I mean, that is great company, especially for a guy that obviously had some ups and downs last year, but he's as consistent as ever. Abu Kijab, man, when he's going, he definitely brings something different to this team that they haven't had at times in the past.
Right.
And, we've already mentioned Derek Alston in the depth, so, man, I'm curious what fans think, because there is that perception out there that every time Boise State does put themselves in a similar situation like this where everybody's almost believing, they let them down. And that I think that's not 1,000%, by the way. Like, I know it feels like it, but it's not.
I think part of that perception is, I think it's twofold. One is the Mountain West tournament thing that I said.
Exactly. That blows it out of proportion.
And that one is very, I think it's valid.
And that is valid.
The other is those 2 games we mentioned, the San Diego State and Nevada games, where they had a chance to be top 10 teams and like
losses.
You want to say luck? Maybe it wasn't luck, because if the guy's open, he plays college basketball. Those were the guys you wanted shooting. But you think about, like, they don't have that win yet. Yeah, they won at Creighton, but they haven't done it here. And I think that's part of it. You know what I mean?
That's fine. But
so I think it makes sense. But I don't think it would be fair, like you said, to have this all blanket statement that they always mess it up.
Yeah,
I don't think that whatsoever.
Yeah, maybe hit us up on the Twitter account though. the Sports Bar Twitter account, and just let us know. We'll talk about it next week on the podcast. Are you ready to believe in this team? Are you all in? Do you still have some hesitations? Do you think this team, this group of guys, these coaches, these players have what it takes to go get it done down in Las Vegas? Does any team in the league just scare you out of your mind where you're like, nope, we're not beating them, there's no way?
I don't know what the odds were, and I thought about this. Literally, I thought about this in the fall. Was like, I bet a great value bet would have been Boise State to win the Mountain West tournament. I don't think some places don't. I don't know.
Oh, I bet you if you could have got that, if you could have got that midway through the season, you probably would have had some decent odds. I will say this though, even though Boise State seems like they're in a great spot right now, 2 through 7 is crazy tight.
Yeah.
Like, if you go on a 2-game losing streak, you could go from second to 7th in a hurry, depending on what else happens in the league. And then all of a sudden, I mean, how much different does that look for you when you're going down to Las Vegas? I mean, it looks drastically different if all of a sudden you drop out of the top 2-3 down to 6-7.
Yeah.
Way different road.
Way different road. And that's part of the thing where there's nothing set in stone. Right now, they would be well up there, right? Right now, they would what? Do we do the tiebreakers? They'd be like third?
They'd be second. Yeah, I think they'd be third.
With Utah State.
Nobody's beaten San Diego State, so you have to go to the third-tier tiebreaker, which I'm just not ready to dive into that minutia yet.
Anyway.
Like, we'll get there. But
and so they'd still be in good position right now. Of course, there's still games left to be played. And it's when I wrote my midseason thing on them, that's right around when they weren't playing great. And I kind of did a little analysis saying, like, well, they should finish in the top half, which right now you're like, well, they're well going to exceed that. I mean, there's a possibility that they won't, but I think at that point that seemed realistic. And now it's realistic to be like, hey, they should be one of those top 4 seeds.
It's crazy. Sports.
It's been impressive, and just you know, they've been putting it together, looking like the team that you thought maybe they should. And of course, there's gonna be some people who are like wanting to do it earlier. It's like, I don't know, but you know, I
don't even know if I would say should as much as I would say could. Right. You know, like they just had some pieces that they had to wait to get a boot key jab after the new year, and
didn't get ACOT this year.
Didn't get ACOT eligible. Even with Derek, like he had this huge jump in scoring, but I mean, sports, you just can't assume these seismic leaps every year. Derek's done it, but like you just can't assume it.
Correct.
So yeah, the team they could be, I think, is what they're definitely starting to show. So
next year, when they have all these other transfers coming off, it again, maybe it could be the same thing next year. Similar, where it's just like if you're getting all these new pieces, it may take a while to gel. Yeah, because they got key jab at winter break. I'm just excited to see a guy named Devonair Dautrieve play. That's
cool thing about that.
I don't know if there's a better name.
They do have to weave them in, but a lot of those guys are already here.
Oh, most of them are. Right?
I think all of them are.
Yeah.
So I mean that is one little bit of an advantage there. That most all those transfers are basically here, so they are getting somewhat acclimated with the program. But man, following the new year next year, this team could look pretty darn athletic and tough for sure, especially if DEA comes back.
I think some people have been like, oh yeah, wait till next season. And I get that frustration, but I think people were maybe saying that in December, but it was like, no, just wait a month. And if you did, then you see the team's pretty good. Yeah. I think they can beat San Diego State. Do I think they will? Probably not.
Yeah, I'm right there.
If you had to go on a percentage, but I think it's a very good opportunity.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it turns out, both on the court and in the stands. See if Boise State can do something they haven't done too often in the Leon Rice era and crack that 10,000, 11,000 fan mark. It'll be interesting to see if they can.
I think they should.
As long as we are talking about basketball over at Boise State, shifting gears ever so slightly, the Boise State women's team,
that team.
I can't peg them because they're very good, and if you don't believe that, then I can't help you. But one of the more interesting teams I've ever seen. I mean, they get up on teams by 15, 20, and they can't hold these leads.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, at the 4-minute mark in the third quarter last night, they're up 18.
Right,
and like
they had to hold on against
game minutes later, it's tied.
Right,
like what?
Right. right?
I mean, yeah, they still held on and they still won. Jade Christopher, 200 assists now on the season. She broke the school record, which was 193 by Jai Rodriguez, right?
Yes. Yep.
So that's actually pretty awesome. And I loved Riley Loop who had 23 last night, tweeting after the game, I want everybody to know about this. I mean, she's very adamant that Jade Christopher deserves her moment in the sun.
Yeah, and that's that team's. Again, if you want to talk about a team that might make a run, there's no reason for you to think that they couldn't.
No. I mean, given their track record at the Mountain West tournament, I don't care if they have 5 wins going into the thing. I'd expect them to make a run in Las Vegas because they always bring it together down there.
And as many wins as Fresno State has, a lot of their wins have been like they've to their credit, they've hit like last second shots to beat teams like multiple times.
Well, Boise State led by double digits in that game.
Against Fresno.
And Fresno State came storming back. Was that the game that Fresno had I can't remember. There's one of those games where they allowed a big fourth quarter comeback. They allowed 35 fourth quarter points. I think that was Fresno State, but I can't remember exactly.
Utah State, they lost in similar fashion.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. And it's a senior laden team. A lot of these ladies have been around for quite some time now, and they've had a ton of success, and they've won big games and taken the program to heights it's never seen before. But it's just been an odd season.
Yeah,
it's been an odd season where they have plenty of ability, plenty of talent. They've played amazing at times, but there's just a little something missing. Gordy Presnell usually brings them together, but there's just a little something missing right now. So we'll see if they can get it done and get to another NCAA tournament.
I was trying to find something because we mentioned Dotrieve real quick.
Yeah.
Signing day was last week for football, and I found my favorite names.
Oh.
I'm just going to say them again on here.
Yeah.
Buck Coors.
Will you emphasize the last part of that first name?
Buck Coors.
Coors. Okay.
Oh, we'll get to that. Breaker Mendenhall, who's Bronco's son.
Yep.
Tiger Shanks.
Where's he going? I feel like I remember hearing that
UNLV.
name. Okay. Oh, Tiger Shanks. Is he a lineman?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're also getting a tight end named Charlton Butt.
I think
it's tight end. Sincere Brown.
Nice guy. Very sincere.
Chateau Reed.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever had a brown ale from Sincere Brewing? Sincere Brown, very good.
Okay.
But the Chateau Reed red, the red, also good, depending on what you're eating. And then, of course, there was Tanner Sackman, the guy that signed with
and
CMI.
he is a sack man.
And he's a defensive lineman.
Yes.
Anyway, I just thought I'd share those.
Had to get that in there. Well, we are, as long as we are talking about football.
Let's
not
also,
a ton.
I have.
What do we got? I ain't intramurals, brother.
It ain't intramurals, brother.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Colorado shirt since this shirt was actually, he actually said this.
That was pre-me. That's Dan Hawkins?
13 years ago.
Okay.
When he had his big, it's Division I football rant. It's because it's not even on the back. If anyone wants to see it.
It's Division I football. Go Buffs.
Dan Hawkins at least stuck around Boulder, unlike their coach who just left. So.
You okay, buddy?
No, not really.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you understand it, and coaching is like the dirtiest profession.
It is. We should not be. There needs to be something done, and I don't know what can be done.
Right.
But you knew the moment that even D'Antonio stepped down that the shoe was going to fall somewhere else.
Yes.
And now it's still going to fall somewhere else. Like
probably,
right?
Probably.
Did they name an interim coach?
Yeah, Darren Cheverini. It might be him.
Okay. I hope it is.
Or if it's Bieniemy, it comes from the NFL. So they at least. I think it'll
That's
be
pie in the sky dreaming, right? Though I mean,
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. My whole thing with Bieniemy is like it doesn't make any sense that he doesn't have a head coaching job. So what I just convinced myself is that Andy Reid's only in it for like another couple of years, and he's just going to take over his job and then have Pat Mahomes in his prime for a decade.
And that's reasonable. And the fact that Bieniemy
because I don't understand why he doesn't have a job.
Bieniemy was CU's OC in 2011 and 2012, and they sucked.
Yeah.
And it ended poorly for everybody. But he's a legend there, like a legend. He's the all-time leading rusher, and he'd make a lot of sense, but also at the same time, you don't see why he would. But there are reports that he's willing to listen, and there's some interest. And of course, to at least tie it in a little Boise State a little bit. Obviously, Dan Hawkins went, and then after Dan Hawkins left, like we need a CU guy, and they got John Embry, and it was horrible. So now I'm worried that with Tucker leaving there, we need to get a CU guy. And if the same thing happens, good. Crappy for another decade.
Yeah.
But of course Harsin's name gets bandied about. I just think with the timing of it, I would be very, very surprised if there's much mutual interest. I don't know if there would be mutual interest in the first place. I think when they hired Mel, or even when they hired, not McIntyre.
I mean,
but when they hired Mel, I don't think there was much interest.
Brian Harsin could have led the Broncos to like 4 straight undefeated seasons. Would hiring a Boise State coach sit well in Boulder, even given that?
It wouldn't sit well, but things are at least a little different.
Cool. It's detached. We're detached enough from that era.
Enough.
Few coaches in between them.
I mean, the fan base wouldn't love it.
I mean, Chris Peterson had a ton of success up there at Washington, and he kicked that whole "you leave Boise, you're going to fail" because he had great success. But I just wonder if the Colorado Nation or Buffalo Nation or whatever you call them down there.
Unless Rick Georges thinks that he really wants Brian Harsin, I just couldn't see it happening.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, I'm just sure that his name was bound to be bandied about. It is. I have not heard anything. I'd be a little surprised.
I think I would be too.
Yeah.
We did talk with his coaches, or Harsin's assistant coaches, though, on signing day. And we had so much to cover on signing day, we really didn't get to it. But awesome to see Matt Miller, chat with him again, and Winston Venable, one of your favorites of all time, which is kind of funny that now he's old enough to be a college football coach.
Oh, that has definitely dawned on me.
Yeah, but he, man, what a ball of energy, and it was kind of cool how honest he was about the whole, coaching running backs, and he said it is going to be a huge learning curve, but like things that don't really intimidate him are, like recruiting, for example. Like he knows he's going to be a ball of energy and go in and relate to people and recruit people, and he feels like his experience as a linebacker will impact running backs because he knows, what worked against him as a linebacker, and like you kind of could roll your eyes and be like, okay, that's the reason. But look at Eric Keesaw. Like he coached wide receivers through the eyes of a quarterback, and it led to, as much production as depth as we've ever seen at that position. So a different way it's not always a bad thing. Like it might lead to something that's cool.
I know it was funny with Harsin. Harsin was like, I coach tight ends. Like, well, at least that was offense. Winston was a defensive player and he's never been an on-field coach. Yeah. It's fair to be like, whoa, that's outside the box.
But I just think that so much of that is just about having good energy and attitude as part of your program, and that is what, man. And I don't know if anybody has more than Winston.
And not that he can just step in and it's, it runs itself. But I talked to him about this. I said, hey, does it at least smooth the transition a little bit when you have 3 really good experienced running backs coming back? And he was like, hell yeah, it does. Like he made no bones about it. And it's the same thing for Miller. Miller at least has had a little more on-field experience, of course, but that, he has Halani, Van Buren, Mahone coming back, and that'll help him. Yeah, because those guys have been around.
C.T. Thomas, Khalil Shakir, Octavius Evans, Steph Cobbs.
Wide receiver, right?
Those are the wide receivers that Matt Miller's obviously excited about, and we chatting with him last week. I thought it was awesome, and some coaches just they kind of joke around about it or whatever, but like Matt Miller, like he legitimately wants somebody to go out and break whatever records he had here at Boise State because he's coaching those guys. Matt Miller, when he played here, he didn't care about stats. He accumulated a ton of them. He didn't care. He doesn't care today. He doesn't care, won't care tomorrow, doesn't care yesterday. He wants to put guys in a position to go break his records, and he said as much. And check out that interview we have it at KTVU.com. But it was fun catching up with those guys.
Yeah.
Dave.
I'm going to write something on Winston pretty soon. I haven't had the opportunity. I wrote something about Miller, but it was without really talking to him. Winston, now we finally were able to talk to him. That announcement of him getting hired was when I was on vacation, so I didn't get to write anything anyway. So do something on him, and I did see the videos of your interviews when you got to sit down with them, and I what I think is very important for Brian Harsin, he hasn't said it, is continuity on that side of the ball. Yeah. People that have a knowledge of that offense. Yeah. I'm not saying that Brian Harsin thinks it's his offense, but he thinks it's the Boise State offense. And familiarity is extremely important. Think about everybody on that side of the ball, how long they've been around or at least are familiar with Boise State. Bedell only 3 years, but same thing with Keesaw. But Kent Riddle was here way before, and he's been here since Harsin got here. And then you mentioned those 2 guys, and I think it's very important for Brian Harsin.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And whether it's people that are going to stay around longer, great, but also just that knowledge of what that offense is about. If you say, oh, we missed the offense that it used to be or whatever, this is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we'll soon start to find out. Spring ball right around the corner. NFL Combine right around the corner. Home stretch of basketball season. Bronco, men and women, trying to make a run. NNU is caught fire, and the College of Idaho gets the chance to wrap up their regular season conference title this week at home against Northwest. We'll see if they can get it done, but it's still an exciting time of year, Davo.
Baseball starts a week from tomorrow for Boise State, too.
Yep.
Wild.
1 week away down in Texas. Yeah. So we'll have that to talk about and more next week here on Jay and Dave's Sports Bar. We'll see you then, again, serving the Idaho sports community.